Twitching jigs for coho is one of my favorite techniques, and I got 5 different styles of jigs you need to be aware of, and it's going to help you if you want to build your own tackle. Check this out. Yes, there are 5 different styles of twitching jigs out there. What's important about knowing this is the different situations of how to use these and where they apply. But at the same time, we're going to build each of these tonight and show you how to quickly and simply put together one of these jig styles. And then we're going to show you guys in the test tank how this all works. Just to show you the difference in action and where these apply as we really hit the drop here this week. It's a perfect time to really get ready because these fish are going to be on the bite. It's going to be the time to go and pursue this. So let's take a look at these different 5 styles right now. The first we're going to start with is Marabou. One of the most well-known materials in the fly tying realm. Jig tiers use Marabou because of its breathability movement. What that means, in the water, that Marabou pulsates. It moves with the current. Every twitch that you move creates lifelike motion out of that. Almost to think of it like a squid. This is going to be pulsating in the water. Marabou jigs work so well because of the ability to impart tons of action on the jig. Coho love a jigs that rises and falls, and that Marabou really comes alive in the water, really imitating as close as possible to the natural food sources that they were eating in the salt. So when you take that to part, you tie these jigs up, they can be all Marabou. And there's 2 different ways of tying these styles. When you start talking to Marabou jig, just like this one here, and I'll do a close-up. Marabou breathes very well in the water. Marabou has its own action based on you just sitting still or just twitching the rod in the slightest. Any bit that you impart is going to drive this to be a fish catching jig. Now, what's really important though is how you tie in the materials of the Marabou that you use. It will impart action, but there are best practices in the way to put this on a jig to give it the most movement and frankly its profile. When wet, this is a very key important. When wet, Marabou shrinks way down. So this big poofy jig is going to look just like this skinny little thing when it's all in the water. And I'll show you this in the tank. What that means though, when you're moving this through the water, the profile is a lot thinner and it is not as catchy as it looks dry. So you have to be able to impart the action to really get that fish's attention and not rely on the size of the profile to get the fish's attention. That is where step 1, where you tie this in as the bulk feathers. It really helps because you're using the Marabou quill to give it as much body and profile as possible. If you use just the individual fibers like you would off a woolly bugger fly, if you've ever heard of one of those, the fibers themselves are great. They move a lot, but they are very, very sparse. So that really shrinks down. When you're using the full quill, this gives you all the extra bulk. But that's not the only way to do it. You can actually tie in the quill, and I'll show you this in the video here shortly. You can really wrap this around, and they call it palmering the Marabou. That gives a wider profile using the longest pieces of that quill and gives you a bigger size. It still shrinks down, remember that, but it gives you a lot more pulsating action within that. That is Marabou. Very, very effective. Here is an example of this being palmered. You can see the really long fibers on the outside of the jig here. It is tied in, so this breathes really, really well in the water. But in itself, yes, that will catch fish. However, there is another piece of material to consider when you're tying twitching jigs, and that is rabbit fur. A rabbit strip of rabbit fur makes the perfect tail for a twitching jig. This moves really well in the current. It holds its profile. It doesn't really shrink. But when you do a combination pattern like this, taking the best of both worlds, you get a palmered marabou, really, really nice, and a rabbit strip tail. This breathes really well in the water. It has the tail that flaps around. You're getting a little bit of everything and a little bit bigger profile. This works phenomenally, really, in a very popular style to tie. And it's straightforward. It's really not complicated. It's very easy to do. And we'll show this to you as well. Now, when we talk about rabbit itself, you don't have to go the combination route. You can use just the rabbit material, a rabbit tail and a rabbit body. And that's where you can incorporate some other materials like rubber legs and some things like flash to be able to bring this profile together. This profile right here stays pretty much the same in the water. It does breathe down just slightly, but it really holds its shape. The profile is really going to matter when these fish are wanting something big, right? They're aggressive. They're really trying to hit something. You can go with these bigger profiles. It works really good. When they're getting finicky, you may want to slender down to that marabou where it's not so in your face with this big profile and presentation. But rabbit keeps its shape. It actually really fishes well in the water, and one of my preferred ways to do these. Now, we can't talk twitching jigs without bringing up Hoochie Skirts, because it's a whole nother spectrum of material aside from actual hair. Marabou off birds, you have the rabbit fur off a rabbit, obviously. You're getting natural furs and fibers that really breathe and move. You get into synthetics like rubber in a squid skirt, silicone, PVC, all these different things of how these are made. This squid skirt is really unique because of what this does. A 4-inch squid just like this is more of a high water presentation for coho salmon. When you're getting higher off-colored water, big squid skirts like this play a huge factor role in how fish respond. It's a big bulky profile and it really gets their fish's attention, but what's unique about these is the way they fall. They fall straight, one cast, then part of the other cast, they're going to roll to the side. You bring it up. These are erratic. They're never the same on the retrieve, and they really fish well, but they fish in a certain condition that really brings them to light. I like these a little bit higher off-color water or extremely aggressive fish in a hole. Something like this, the bigger profile, will get those fish and really works well. We got one more style. Not a lot of people use it, but I've seen it now surface a few more times in the last couple seasons of some companies doing some different designs to it. And I think it's got a really creative way of doing it. It's combining, obviously, a twitching jig, but we're taking a piece from the bass fishing world and using rubber skirts. Now, what this does is it creates a body where all the legs fall forward like this, but as you're retrieving it, it poofs out the profile and creates this body. Now, what I like to do as well, I add a worm tail. I give it a hot spot to focus on. The black and blue, I'm kind of using that as an example color today, is one of my favorites for most conditions. But you add a hot tail like this, it will really get those fish's attention to focus on. They're going to see this profile, the silhouette, and they're going to follow that. But then that hot tail is right there flapping in their face. That's just a 3-inch Mad River worm. Works really great for that situation. And I'll show you guys how simple it is to put something like that together. And they really do work. So another option for you. Hey, you want to win these jigs? Well, stick to the end of the video because I'm going to give away all 5 of these that we're making tonight. Stay tuned. Here's our example all marabou twitching jig. Really breathes well, but super simple to tie. So let's do our own. All right, to get this started, we need a twitching jig head, and this can be any size what you want. I pour my own here. This is a 1/2 ounce on a 3/0 size hook. So we're going to put a good little thread base in. I like 210 Denier when I tie any of my twitching jigs just because I can really secure the material down. We're just using orange based on what I had. But here is what we want. Marabou. Blood quill marabou. Pretty straightforward. We're going to go to kind of this darker blue. And I want to show you this. There's two different styles of quill that you're going to find in a package. This style right here, which has really long, beautiful feathers, is a great one to palmer. Whereas you're going to get some of these shorter, stockier ones that really work better to be bunched together. The jig that we have here has a lot of the bunched together small quills, and that works great. So we're going to do that, kind of mimic the same thing here. Okay, we're going to, like this, grab a tuft. We're going to put a few good wraps down. Really helps to have a good pair of fly scissors here. Then we're going to take our other color of the blue and pinch these together. I mean, you could, if you really wanted to, you could tie these in however you want using the full feather, but you don't have to. It's kind of all up to your imagination. But we're basically going to put a little bit of color on each side and secure this down. These do not have to be super extravagant. What you'll see here though is it'll start to come together. Now, we gave ourselves a little bit of room here to play with how the material looks. This darker blue side poofs up just a little bit more. So I am going to grab maybe another feather or two to try and boost the way this looks. Now we get it about even. That looks pretty good there. Little crystal flash. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna put a little on each side. And lay it in. The beautiful thing about twitching jigs in general, you can go as crazy as you want. You can go as sparse as you want. Some conditions and days on the water will dictate more of a need to have heavier material. You don't need anything crazy. To finish this off, we're going to just take a little bit of New Age chenille and we're just going to build this collar up. Nice part of having a 360 vise is that you can let it do the work for you. I wrap behind on each side before I snip this off. And we'll just do a quick whip finish. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull that baby tight. Snip it off. And there you go. A black and blue Marabou twitcher. That will work. Comparison of the two. Not too bad. Here is our combination pattern. I'm really excited to show you guys this one because it is fun to do. You can see tail, Palmer Marabou. Let's do it. Okay, we got our jig again, base thread, got a rabbit strip. You're gonna tie the rabbit in. Secure it down. And I like going, roughly 2-ish, 2.5 inches. Pulling the fibers back so it lays nice. I then take some of our flash here and I lay that over the top of the tail that we just formed. Okay, this is where we're going to wrap in our Palmer sections of Marabou. Now, I already picked one here that I showed you at the beginning. I'm going to grab one from our darker blue. And what you're looking for is finding the fibers that don't have a giant quill with them. Pull this one out and show you. The thicker you get towards the bottom of this here typically means that it's going to have more of that quill. Now here's what you do. You will take and start to push back your feathers and pull that tip off. You're going to lay this down and get a good tying grab on there. Got our dark blue. We'll do the same here with the light blue. Now the key is holding each of the feathers as best as you can together and then continue to pull the fibers out as you turn because they're going to want to wrap over each other. And you're just going to lay the wraps right next to each other. And then going through, I'm trying just to pull them back. And they go. And this will come together, and there's a way to pull some of those fibers that get stuck out as you go. And then you're going to get to a point where the quill starts getting a little thick here. And that's where I really end up tying off, because then it allows for not to make a giant mess and becomes too much of a bulk on the jig itself. Okay, so we'll tie that. Now, dependent on the jig, I could have started this up higher to have it finish right up next to the head itself. But I kind of had the same thought as the last jig to come in here and lay down a little bit of chenille. Again, those long wispy fibers, don't want them getting caught. And again, you can make it however you want. Clean up the head part here. One, two, three, four, five. Hand whip finish. Snip it off. Now, the nice part of having sharp scissors is you keep them closed and you can go back through here and pull out any of those fibers that got covered up. But just looking at that, I think we did pretty good. Again, when you compare the two, my variation just has the chenille head in there. But that'll definitely catch a coho. No doubt about it. Okay, for this one, the all rabbit. You'll see how this is going to come together. Honestly, this is my favorite jig to tie. I think for myself, based on repetitions, this has been the easiest for me. But I also do feel like I have a better control over the rabbit material. The Marabou definitely takes a little more practice and having good Marabou in order to tie it correctly. But we'll start with the same process as the combination jig. We're going to grab our flash, put that bad boy in. We're going to add, as you saw, a little bit of a rubber tail. These are just rubber legs, straight. You can get a lot of different skirt materials like this. Makes it really fun. But we're going to kind of go a little crazy on this color combination. Now here is the difference. This is a separate style of rabbit called crosscut, where the fibers actually lay on its side, if you can see that, versus rabbit fur is cut straight up and down. What this ends up doing, for those that are tying this in, ooh, I'll give you a super tip here. I learned this a few years back. There are two different styles. There are two different sides to the rabbit. This is the biggest strip that helped me. Do you see how this lays facing backwards, where this side faces up? You want your back end. You want your back end facing like that when you tie it in. And you tie it. Now we will just start wrapping the rabbit. These wraps are going to go right next to each other, just slightly above, as you wrap all the way up to the top of your jig head. It should look that. What I like to do here is I go back just a little bit over that end piece so we don't have anything come undone on us. Again, you can match your thread so it looks a little more hidden. Sometimes I think that creates a hot spot. You take your fiber here of the rubber, undo those. Now you have an all rabbit. I think that one will definitely catch some coho. Now this guy here, it's got two different colors, so you can layer in more and make it super fluffy and bulky. I kind of like them a little more with the rabbit on the sleek end, just for how they fish. But those will definitely catch either way. Okay, our squid boy. You don't have to actually tie anything, which makes this kind of nice. For quick jigs, it makes it simple. You can buy a pack of these from the store, get some jig heads, whether you pour them yourself or buy them. I find that the bullet shape jigs work best for these squids because they slide in easier to the head, and then these are going to fish a little more erratically with a darter. You can put a round head on it, but we'll take one of our jigs, right? We'll take one of our squid skirts here, and what we're gonna do is just basically slide this bad boy in and get it lined up, and then you're gonna come push right up over the top. You can kind of see it starts to get the bubble. And then when you're happy with where it landed, sometimes you can get a little more material in there. Otherwise, I just pinch it like this till it pops through. And now you got a squid on a twitch jig that's going to absolutely whack them. Simple, easy. You can have a bunch of these ready to go in minutes. Probably the easiest one you're going to have ready to go. Specific situations of this, I'll get into in a minute. Now our last twitch and jig is this hybrid bass silicone style with the hotspot worm on here. I'll show you how easy this is to make too. It can be very simply done. It doesn't take a lot of materials. You need a skirt, the jig, and a worm. So pick your favorites. We're sticking with the black and blue theme. Right here, I think it was less than $5 for a pack of 5. I'm gonna grab one out. grab your jig head, and it doesn't matter with these banded ones. You're gonna slide the hook through. You're gonna find that middle. Okay. Hook's going through, and we're gonna center this up. Now this is a band, and there is a collar. So we're gonna slide that right up on our collar, and we're gonna push that right up tight on the head. Now here's the thing, these squids or these silicone skirts are super long. You can keep it that long if you choose to, but you can see how long that tail hangs off. What I like to do is take my scissor and trim my material up. So it creates a different profile, but it also creates this bigger section here in the front to poof out, and this middle section will be a little bit more bulk when we add our worm. We will take our steelhead worm of choice. I like these little Mad River 3-inchers because they pretty much work for everything. They are pointed, so I take off just like the first two little guys. I line this up the best eyesight wise, and we are just gonna thread the worm. Pop it out about midway through, and then push that down. Check that out. Black and blue, hot spot, pink tail. I think that'll catch a giant just like that one. Now, how cool is that? Super simple, super easy. I will link all the materials down below for you. And if you stuck around this long, I'm going to give away those 5 that I just made. If you want to win those, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, like this video, and comment below what your favorite jig was, or if you have another one that I missed. This is the favorite time of year for me to use twitching jigs because these fish pile up, they're really aggressive, and they're going to start being even more particular about the action of the lures that you're using to help bring bites. And twitching jigs just like those are going to be exactly that. What do you guys think? Are you going to use some of those jigs? Are you going to tie your own just like that? If you like catching coho, well, check out this technique right here. This one's going to help you catch fish too. Thanks for watching. Tight lines and fish on!